What's this video?
39 no way.
Whoa! Whoa! Osu's biggest cheater was finally caught. 20-minute video from Carl Jobs. Chat. This is it.
Hello, you absolute legends. Osu is huge. It's easily one of the most popular rhythm games of all time, boasting millions of active players and supporting one of the most dedicated and passionate communities you'll ever find. And because the community is so large and so dedicated,
Yo, that's a round table. No way.
A very competitive scene at the top level, with truly unbelievable levels of skill being reached by its top players. Every time I cover a new game, I'm blown away by how good the best players are, but with Osu especially, I just can't wrap my mind around how these people do what they do. Anyone within the top 1,000 and even beyond is extremely talented, but as you get nearer to the very top, players become and even beyond my mind around how these people do what they do. Anyone within the top 1,000 and even beyond.
Top 1,000. Chat, listen, dude. We're still up there. We're still up there, okay?
Beyond is extremely talented, but as you get nearer to the very top, players become incomprehensibly skilled at the game. We will get into these specifics of gameplay shortly, but for me personally, it doesn't matter how many replays I watch, my brain just isn't fast enough to keep up with what's going on. When it comes to cheating in Osu, the community is also extremely vigilant. There are entire sub-communities devoted to finding and weeding out suspicious players, and there are a bunch of different methods players have tried to use in the past to fake their way up the ranks. Over the years, anti-cheat detection has improved tremendously, which is why it had been almost a decade since a top-ranked player was exposed for cheating. All top players are expected at some point to prove their skill with the use of hand cam, and live play videos are studied down to the frame to ensure there is no foul play. But there was one particular player, one cheater, who managed to slip through the cracks and work their way up to almost the very top of the ranks, eventually reaching third. The reason they made it this far was because they were good, and I mean they were genuinely a really good player. They had been playing Osu since 2017, and by 2023, they were ranked within the top 200, which is already incredible. Then, in early 2023, they seemingly became possessed. His gameplay went to the next level, and he suddenly developed mastery of skills he never had before. This allowed him to rise even further up the ranks, all the way to the podium. Unlike other top players, however, this person wasn't uploading any hand cams, and when they streamed, the noise from their keyboard was suspiciously absent, but people let it slide. I mean, this was a good player who had been playing the game at a top level for many years. Surely there was nothing to worry about.
Yeah, hindsight, this is all sus, but like...
2024, the community was shocked when a bombshell report was posted online detailing gameplay analysis that all but confirmed this person had been cheating for well over a year. In today's video, we will take a look at the biggest Osu cheating scandal in a decade, and yet another example of a very talented player who fell to the dark side. I really hope you enjoy. Now legends, I am here once again to spread an important message. Just because we are nerds, that doesn't mean we have to build our own PCs. I will spend hundreds of hours speedrunning a single level on a Nintendo game from the 90s, but I will never
Chat, we're not skipping the ad.
PC. I'm just not a hands-on kind of guy. And if you're like me and you want to finally get that beautiful PC upgrade you know will make you so happy, but you don't want to build it yourself, you need to get one from StarForge Systems.
StarForge Systems.
Super easy.
Damn, the shell of artesian builds.
So if you go in with a certain
now
budget,
owned by
you know
OTK.
you're going to get the most you possibly can for your money. StarForge PCs are used by tons of your favorite creators, they look amazing and they run smoothly. Plus they are reliable, including a full 2-year parts and labor warranty. And if you really want to look cool, they even offer incredible custom cases. I put off upgrading a PC for years because I didn't want to build one, which is why I was so happy when StarForge Systems sent me mine. And the one they sent me is amazing. Getting a new computer is always the best feeling for us nerds, so please spoil yourself by getting the PC you truly deserve. The link to StarForge Systems is in the description. Go and check them out today. Before we begin, let's address the elephant in the room, the pronunciation of the name of the game. The official pronunciation is OS, as confirmed by the developer. But for this—
No fucking way. How old is this, dude? 2014? Okay, that explains a lot. Listen, man. This no longer exists. Alright? This is gone. Alright? A Keep subscription is not gonna save him anymore, bro. Holy fuck.
This video I'm going to call it Osu simply because it stands out more and it's easier to differentiate within sentences for people who aren't too familiar with the game. Osu separates itself from other rhythm games in a unique way. In a game like Geometry Dash, there is only one button, so the emphasis is entirely on how precisely you can time your inputs. In a game like Guitar Hero, timing is still important, but there is a bit more leeway. What makes Guitar Hero uniquely challenging is that there are 5 separate buttons you need to hit, and this requires a large amount of finger dexterity. In Osu, the timing requirements are similar to that of Guitar Hero, where there is a window of frames that successfully count as a hit. Only this time when you hit an input, your cursor needs to be inside a specific area of the screen, indicated by a small circle. So this creates
Chat, who's playing this? Is this Carl? No way, right?
Cursor accuracy, or
Are they
aim.
cracked at Osu?
The game indicates when you need to time your inputs based on an enclosing outer ring. When the ring touches the circle, this indicates when you need to hit the button. The game allows you to program 2 different keyboard keys, which can be whatever you want.
Yo, not gonna lie,
and you
they're
can
pretty
hit whichever
good.
key you like. Some people like to primarily use one key for most of their inputs, while others like to alternate between the two.
Whoa,
You can
this
use
guy
a
already
mouse or
understands
touchscreen to
alternating?
control your cursor, but these days most top players use a pen and a tablet. When players get better at the game and want a greater challenge,
Hello, Owen.
they can choose to turn
Top
on
again,
certain gameplay
BTMC,
modifiers
as I know
that
I
make
may
the
not
game
be the
harder.
ideal
For
OSU
example, the
player,
modifier
but
Hard
whenever
Rock
I
makes the
record
circle
beat
smaller.
naming
Hold
with
up.
Sound Voltex or DDR, I always have a hand cam/foot cam for 1. Proof of skill, and 2. It's satisfying to see my hands or feet go crazy and also to see the lights when I hit a key or step an arrow.
See, here's the thing, dude. If you're a top player, like I'm saying, like top 1,000 at the very, like at the very least, dude. If you literally just live stream yourself playing the game, you will literally just like passively farm money. Like if you just put rank 982 farming in your title, you will literally just casually just get money. So why isn't every single top player doing that? Legitimately, bro. And there's no excuse. A $50 investment in a webcam will literally just like passively farm money for years. That's it. That's it.
Thus requiring greater aim. Double time increases the tempo, and the modifier hidden eliminates the timing rings and makes circles disappear shortly before you need to hit them. The best players seek to attain more performance points on each map by turning on most or all of these modifiers and achieving the maximum amount of possible combos. In order to climb up the ranks, you obviously need to be able to score a higher amount of performance points on maps. But it's more about quality rather than quantity, as the ranks only consider your top 100 scores and uses a weighting system to determine your rankings. To be the best, it's far better to spend your time doing really well on a smaller number of maps than grinding mediocre scores on as many maps as you can.
That's true.
Some maps are harder than others, and if a map is harder, it means you can score more performance points. The 2 main variables that determine difficulty is the physical distance between each successive circle and the amount of hits required within a certain time. Circles that are very far apart require bigger jumps, and this really tests a player's ability to aim. And if there are more objects that need to be hit in a short amount of time, this tests a player's ability to hit quickly. These 2 variables are very distinct skills, called aim and speed, and usually top players specialize in one or the other. These 2 specialties result in entire maps being focused on one skill or the other. For example, here is a top aim player, White Cat, playing a map that is primarily based around aim.
Yo, how'd they clear the DMCA for this?
And here is a top speed player, Scytho, playing a map that is focused on speed.
Wait, is this Sidetrack Day? Is this 8-bit Sidetrack
Players can
Day?
be really good at both, like the top-ranked player MREC, but generally players have a well-defined preference. Tapping speed is an interesting skill, and in my 25 years of speedrunning, I've found that people either usually have the gift of fast tapping, or they don't. Some people are just built to tap, and if you aren't designed in a specific way, it's very hard to compete with someone who is. One such player who was seemingly not designed to tap quickly was a player known as Cloutiful. Cloutiful has gone by several different names over the years, for example Epic Gaming or Chudson, but in this video I'm going to refer to him as Cloutiful. Cloutiful began playing playing Osu in 2017, and over the years it became clear that he was an extremely gifted player specializing in aim maps. By 2021, he had climbed into the top 200, where he remained for the next 2 years. For 6 whole years, Cloutieful was known as an aim player, and he was genuinely good. But in 2023, something changed. Seemingly out of nowhere, Cloutieful learned how to tap. Suddenly, he was submitting extremely high scores for speed maps. Somehow, some way, Cloutieful had evolved, and over the next year, he would use this newfound skill to rise through the ranks, to almost the very top of the world. Tapping in Osu is much more sophisticated than the normal kind of tapping you would see in something like speedrunning. The most common type of tapping is called jitter tapping. This is where you tense your forearm, which
Wait,
causes
I've never
your
heard of
entire
this.
arm to vibrate. When I covered the first damageless run of Ninja Gaiden, I mentioned that in order to kill the final boss without taking a hit, you need to rapidly tap the buttons at around 15 presses per second. And using this jitter tapping technique, 15 presses per second is really, really fast. But it's not the fastest way to tap, nor is it the most precise if you don't need to hit both buttons at the same time. Osu allows you to use any 2 buttons, and if you use an alternating finger technique, you can not only reach speeds of 20 presses per second and beyond, but you can do it in a way that is a lot more controlled and precise. This is called streaming, and to do it really well requires a ton of practice and a ton of talent. In contrast to jitter tapping, which requires maximum tension in the wrist and arm, streaming requires a relaxed technique. This is because speed maps generally force you to stream constantly, and if you have too much tension in your hand, you'll fatigue far too quickly. Before 2023, Cloutieful never demonstrated a high skill level when it came to streaming. He focused entirely on aim maps, which is why in hindsight it's almost too obvious how strange it is that basically overnight he completely switched his specialty to speed. It was in March of 2023 that Cloutieful suddenly became a speed god, and quickly started rising through the ranks. By March 2024, 1 year later, he had risen to number 5 in the world, and by June he had hit number 3. And who knew just how far he would have gone if fate didn't intervene. Despite his rapid rise, Cloutieful didn't raise any suspicions, and there were a few good reasons for this. He was a very trusted player who had been in the community for many years. In fact, prior to 2023, he very often streamed on Twitch with full hand cam, showing everything. So the effect of doing this previously meant that no one doubted his skill. It was only in 2023, after he began his rapid rise through the top 100, that he started to stream without hand cam. This in of itself isn't too suspicious, but again in hindsight, it all makes sense. He was also very active within community discords, and was very friendly with many of the other top players. But there did come a turning point. There was a moment in time that eyebrows everywhere became raised. In mid-June 2024, Cloutieful performed a high score on the map Snow Goose that was insane. It wasn't insane because it was the highest score ever on that map, which it wasn't, but rather more because it could have been. And it could have been by a huge margin. Cloutieful missed a few notes before the end section, but if he hadn't, it was possible to achieve a score of over 2,000 performance points. To put that into context, the highest ever score to date on any map is 1,711 performance points by a Colibed, set last year. What's even more alarming about this performance is that it was done live, and Cloutieful's reaction is honestly baffling.
What is that you are? Excuse me? Excuse me? What the I'm cheating. I'm literally cheating. I'm literally f***ing cheating. I'm unironically cheating.
Okay, I didn't know the context of this play. I didn't realize that
It's
could have
hard
been
to
2
know
KPP.
exactly
That's
what he was
crazy.
thinking here. Obviously, Cloutieful thought that by saying he was cheating in such a brazen way, it would make others less suspicious. But his tactic evidently failed, because after this, people immediately began examining his replays, and it didn't take long before someone discovered that something about Cloutieful's inputs was very strange. One day after his 2000 PP choke, a user by the name of Child Fangirl posted a report to the subreddit Osu Report. This is a subreddit dedicated to posting
What kind of brain damage do you need to name your Reddit account Child Fangirl? This community is not beating the allegations.
reports about suspicious Osu players. Child Fangirl used software to analyze Cloutiful's replays and get exact information about how long he was holding down his keyboard inputs. In their report, they showed that Cloutiful had a very weird hold time distribution. This is the length of time a key is pressed and held in milliseconds. The graphs showed a huge spike around the 63 millisecond mark, which is not normal. Other players showed a much more standard bell curve in their hold times. It's just not feasible for a human to be this constant and precise with their hold times, which naturally indicates that there is likely some illegal software being used to press inputs. This is why in the original report, they suggested the cause of this anomaly could be the use of a bot which would hit inputs for you. A day after this first report was dropped, a software engineer known as Minisbet developed her own replay analyzer that would go a step further and distinguish hold times for each individual key. This showed that it was only one of the keys that exhibited this inhuman precision, and from here, it didn't take long for people to replicate these suspicious hold times, using custom settings on a Wooting keyboard, the exact keyboard that Cloutiful owned and used. Wooting is a keyboard brand that is extremely popular amongst top Osu players. They are specifically designed for rhythm games like Osu that rely heavily on precise and fast input timings. The keyboards come with software that allows you to adjust the way they function. In order to replicate the hold time distribution shown in Cloutiful's replays, they needed to drastically change the way the keyboard functions. The primary key remained the same, but the secondary key's function was reversed. When you pressed down on the key, nothing happened, but when you released the key, that's when it registered a hit. It would then release the input by itself when the key reaches the top. So this 63 millisecond timing that was so common is the time it took for the key to go from being pushed down to being back to a neutral position, which is obviously going to be very consistent based on the mechanics of the keyboard. Philosophically, this is a problem for two reasons. One, it completely changes how a keyboard should work and how a keyboard is intended to work normally. And two, the ultimate effect is that there are two distinct actions with a single stroke. Normally, you would need to both press down to activate and release upwards to deactivate a key. With this setting, a single upstroke both activates and deactivates the key automatically. If this were allowed, you could use the same logic to apply the same settings on the downstroke as well, where a downstroke would both hit and release in one motion as well as the upstroke. This would allow you to tap twice as fast with a single finger without doing anything differently. And in practice, using two keys activating on different strokes does effectively allow you to tap twice as fast. Now, instead of jitter tapping maxing out at around 15 presses per second, you can just tap two fingers at the same time and your tapping speed is now 30 presses per second with no extra work. Even though using these settings perfectly replicated Cloutiful's hold time distribution, people at first assumed it wasn't possible this feature was used. This was due to the fact that you need to hold down a button for longer periods in order to hit sliders, which are these snake-like objects. You need to hit them when the slider begins, and then hold the button down while you follow the path until the end. So if you can't hold the button down, this presents a problem. But this was a massive initial oversight, because this is only a problem if you intend to use the secondary key for sliders. If you only use the primary key for most inputs, and just use the secondary key when streaming, it works perfectly fine. Naturally, after this bombshell report was released, the community wanted Cloutiful to show his gameplay live with full hand cam, so they could see what's really going on. Cloutiful would delay this for several days,
Deleted
saying that he
user.
wasn't feeling well. However, in the meantime, he did jump into a Discord call with a user by the name of AOS, who sent Cloutiful some software hoping to test his input timings. The test was really simple. All Cloutiful had to do was stream using various key combinations, and the software would record the input timings for each, to see if this happened on every key combination, or just the one he used to play Osu. And despite the simple test, Cloutiful couldn't do it. He failed or refused to follow basic instructions. Numerous times his mouse left the screen during tests, and many times he came up with excuses as to why he suddenly had to leave, including being called by his mum multiple times.
No, I'm just being called.
Oh, no.
Wait, I need to make sure my mom's like calling me.
You know.
My mom keeps getting in my room.
Oh, no.
Oh, wanted
I'm
to
sorry
say,
for, like, sussing you
thankfully
out. My
a lot
mom's
of
like,
us
oh,
in the
you-
arcade rhythm game community have handcam/foot cams since we record from our phones or use the handcam feature in Beatmania EW Konami, or use a stream overlay in Voltex.
That's cool.
Again, dude, I'm actually like sorry. Wait, one second.
I need to go as well. I know it's gonna be like sus and whatever. Like it's gonna look sus. But I'm like, I don't know.
No, we're trying to work out what happens.
The entire call was very, very strange. Finally, 3 days later, Cloudful did upload some gameplay with handcam to his YouTube channel. The video showed everything you would want to see, from the computer being turned on, to all of the software he was running, to the keyboard settings, to his gameplay in action. But it was immediately obvious something was off about his keyboard inputs. Cloudful wasn't streaming during streams. In other words, his fingers weren't alternating as they should be. His fingers and hands were fixed in place, and he was using jitter tapping. It was clear as day that he was hitting both inputs at the same time. But when you looked at his inputs on screen, they were clearly alternating. Something wasn't adding up. Between his live gameplay attempts, Cloudful showed the routing software, and according to the profile he was using, his settings appeared normal, but some keen eyes who were familiar with the routing keyboard and how it worked immediately spotted some shenanigans. His software listed 4 different profiles, which is normal. However, he only showed the very first one, and by default, if you want to switch profiles, you press the function and enter keys at the same time. And lo and behold, after playing the game for the first time and before showing his keyboard settings, he pressed function and enter to switch profiles. And then when he closed the software and just before he started playing, he switched profiles again. As soon as this video was posted online, it became evident Cloudful was cheating, and after only an hour, Cloudful removed the video and scrubbed his entire YouTube channel and social media profiles. Later that day, Cloudful confessed that he was in fact cheating by changing his keyboard settings, and was soon after banned from the ranks. Immediately after all of this came to light, there was some minor debate about whether or not changing the way the keyboard functions was in fact cheating, or if Cloudful even thought that what he was doing was wrong. The creator of the keyboard even defended Cloudful's actions on their Twitter account, though this was rescinded almost immediately after they were educated on why it was cheating. Whether or not Cloudful thought this was wrong is pretty obvious. He lied and said he wasn't using it, and then uploaded a video trying to deceive people even further. These aren't the actions of someone who didn't know that it was cheating. Once again, another top player ends up disgraced because they didn't appreciate what they had. I will say this again because it bears repeating. Cloudful was a really good player. When it comes to pure aiming talent, he is definitely one of to have the same skill that he has, and yet for him, it wasn't enough. Cloudful is still young though, so ultimately this might have been a great lesson to learn, and best learn it now before the consequences truly matter. A big thanks to Plasma, Tyler, and Scytho for chatting with me about the game. Thank you so much for watching, you legends. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.
Good video. Chat, if you watched the things unfold live, you'll notice that this timeline of events was a little bit shifted to make the to make it more understandable by the viewers. But very interesting. I think the video is good. I think that's actually one of my biggest issues, is because whenever I tell a story, I want to tell it straight, how it actually happened. But for most people, they don't care about that. For most people, it seems to be okay to, like, you know, adjust the truth just a tiny bit to make it more legible and understandable. Even if things weren't one-to-one with what happened, this is essentially everything in the video is essentially pretty accurate. Non-OSU content creators to make better OSU content. Listen, bro, it's hard. Active cheaters in the top 100. You really think we would let that pass? Hey. Osu is the finest hyperfixation I've ever seen. Chat, in my opinion, the most amusing thing about this video is how Carl went out of their way to specifically spell out performance points every single time instead of saying PP. Which, it's more understandable by a wider audience, right? Or maybe there's another intention. He did say PP? He did? Oh, I must have missed it. I'm dumb. I do that when talking to my family because it makes me uncomfortable. I do it when I talk to other newer players as well. Avoiding PP but fully saying Osu report username. Ah, yes. Child fangirl. Fucking hell, dude. Osu report mafia. What the fuck, man? No. Child as in child from Genshin? Ah, yes. Tartaglia fangirl. Yeah. Awesome Natsu, thank you. Owen, appreciate the bits, man. Z3 Nick, appreciate the 39 months. Julian Top, they were the tier 1 sub. Parfane, they were the 38 months. Narks, 17 months, very epic. Derpster Whale, 23 months, very cool. Ayumi, they were the 39 months. Mr. Quacklot, thank you. Appreciate it, man. Can anyone give me a clue? Did I understand correctly that he was a good aim player until 2019 or so? Then started to cheat? So, the new information that I got from here was that Cloudful was primarily known as a aim player up until he got the Wooting keyboard, and then he suddenly became a speed player. However, it was probably written off as like, oh, Wooting, Rapid Trigger, everyone's now a speed player. Except he was doing it in a way that was not very cool. So yeah. What is wrong with your bitrate? Is my bitrate cooked? It's at 6,186 kilobits per second.